family. It's the NFT Roundtable podcast by Umba Daima. It's Tuesday, September 27, 2022, and I'm your host, Iris Nevins. Today I'm speaking with David Woodbury, CEO of Yak Dao, which is a luxury camping brand offering fractional ownership through NFT memberships. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Iris. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, David. So tell our audience, our listeners about who you are and a bit about your background and how you got to this point of being the CEO of Yak Dao.
Sure. So I've been an entrepreneur for a little over 10 years. Got my start in the wireless industry and then moved into digital marketing and sort of tech, early stage tech startups. And through kind of the course of that, launched a digital marketing agency called Rev7, which is now a holdings company for startups. And our first startup back in 2015 was Camp Native, which is a reservation booking engine for campsites. So that was kind of our first, I would say, start into the camping space or outdoor recreation space. And then that platform we still operate today. It serves about 800 properties, over 2 million campers annually that use it. And, I would say, I guess in about 2017 is when I really started getting into crypto. 2020 is when I pretty much went full time into crypto, mostly on the trading side. But I also picked up a Web3 consulting gig with the state. So I was actually on contract with the state of South Dakota, traveling around to different cities, talking to small business owners and in a couple of cases, some enterprise, larger corporations about Web3 adoption and certain strategies that they could utilize. And sort of as I was doing that, I thought, I've got this pretty cool asset in Camp Native, and I saw some success with two other NFT projects, Links DAO and Fries DAO, that are in sort of the utility space, utility NFT space. And I thought, what an interesting way to apply some of my learnings to our own project, Camp Native. And that's where Yak Dao was born, really utilizing our experience in the outdoor recreation space, specifically with, client acquisition or customer acquisition to the particular campgrounds or campsites. And then, merging that with Web3 and what we can do there. And, it's really one of the things that I think we're trying to solve is owning a recreational property like an RV park or a campground. It's extraordinarily expensive. They're multi-million-dollar projects, so it's just not accessible to most people. And so what we want to do at Yak is really take the NFT membership side of things and apply that to what has a big barrier of entry for most people, but sort of democratize that for our community. So we're creating this global recreational luxury camping brand that's owned by the community and for the community.
Awesome. So how the theme here seems to be recreation, outdoors, camping. How did you get into that in the first place?
I think it's more or less like just a passion, like what I cared about doing, what I found myself doing a lot in my free time, even like going all the way back to younger. My parents took me camping when I was a child, and up in my high school and college years, I did a lot of outdoors camping, and now I ride a lot of mountain bikes and gravel bikes all over. I actually rode a bike across the country one time. So I've always been sort of like an investor. And so applying that to like my passion for like the adventure and like outdoors and like big challenges, like 100-mile gravel races, those types of challenges are kind of what get me going. And so applying that into like the workspace is just, there's a lot of energy behind it.
Very, very cool. I have a special place in my heart for the outdoors, even though I don't do it regularly. I did go to this international program in high school where you had to do a certain amount of wilderness trips. And so in order to graduate, it was very random, but I did get to do some backpacking. And on one trip we hiked down the Grand Canyon down to the Colorado River for it was like a 3 day 2 night trip or something like that,
Oh,
and that
nice.
was really cool. So I've always I ever since that I always remember being like I feel like I could get into this, but I just never did. I feel like it's a whole other
It's
world. And
part of it's like accessibility. And so if it's, most of us live in big cities. And so it becomes
hmm
hard to actually get to the outdoors, or some sort of outdoors community. And then the other part of it is preparedness. Like, where do you stay and how do you stay there? And um, the cool thing about luxury camping is you really just have to like get yourself there, because it's like staying in a hotel, but you're in nature. And
hmm
so that's pretty powerful. That model has proven to be really successful to getting more people outdoors, versus like you have to buy a tent and you have to buy all this gear and then you have to like know how to use it. Where
hmm
with luxury camping, you just literally show up with your suitcase. So
Yeah. So let's talk about luxury camping or glamping just for a moment for all the folks that are listening that may not fully understand what it is. How big are these tents? What's the experience like? In the times when I went camping or backpacking, we had these little like cooking things that we had to set up to cook. So, are there how do you make food? Like, what's the experience like?
yeah, so luxury camping is very different. All of our domes are customizable, so like the members can actually customize. They could put a bathroom in them, they can put a kitchen in them, or they can make them a little more rustic. Obviously, there's expense that comes along with. You could spend $100,000 making something really interesting. So, I guess the first thing to think or to explain is like the structure itself, which is a geodesic dome. So it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
a rounded. Most people think of them as like yurts, but they're not, because these are much more. We're working with a European manufacturer that actually builds these up in like Scandinavia, so like Sweden and Norway, for in the wintertime to look at northern lights. So they have this like glass
Mm-hmm.
dome structure over the top. So as you're lying in bed, you can actually like look out at the stars, which is pretty cool. Of course, you can pull a
Mm-hmm.
privacy curtain as well, so if you don't want people checking into your dome. But it is pretty cool. Like, they've got like a skylight, and then they've got like, it's just a lot of glass. So it's sort of bringing the outdoor space inside, so it feels like you're outside, but you're in the comforts
Mm-hmm.
of like a Marriott hotel room. So up totally like upscale modern furnishings. A comfortable bed. You Most of them will have like a Swedish fireplace in them, so you can make a fire right in your dome. But there'll be heating and cooling as well. So, like, I've stayed in one in the state of Wyoming in like 100-degree heat in the desert, and it was 70 degrees inside the dome. So, totally comfortable in there with the AC unit. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so they're very customizable, which is we're enabling like our community to basically decide how they want to design their dome. Although we have a lot of insights into like what's successful, and then the costs, so basically there's options for them, and they can choose to add things on or not. But you can make it. I mean, you can literally like live in one of these things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people do.
Okay, I have many questions. So, first, for it seems like the domes, it sounds almost kind of like building a house or a tiny house. It's not something that you just throw up overnight. And it's not something you can just take down really quickly either.
That's correct.
Okay.
They're technically a temporary structure. So they can be removed or, like removed from the property itself. But they're bolted down to a deck. So there's a deck that you build them on. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're not like just like an overnight thing. They're definitely there like year round.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, they can be removed. There's no like foundation or anything like that. So it's not like you're moving a bunch of dirt and stuff to build one of these. And they
Mm-hmm.
are much more cost effective than, say, building a cabin. But they, yeah, they're definitely like sustainable and all that kind of good stuff. So.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions as well, is how is what's done to like not interfere with the environment or the animals or the nature that's in the environment, for these camp glamp grounds. Can
Yeah,
we
it's a good question. I mean, I think, as a passionate outdoors person, it's always like top of mind, as far as like being as low impact as we can. At the same time, I think being in nature is such a it's so good for the human soul to be out in nature and
Mm-hmm.
to experience that. So there's this balance of like not disrupting anything, and then but being able to experience it, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
what we want to do is really be as low impact on the land, and that might be things like there's certain amenities we want to be able to offer, like obviously like toilets or showers, things of those natures. But that's more invasive to the land because you're digging in big septic systems and things like that that go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's other off the grid options. So whenever available, we're going to look to use off the grid sustainable options like there's things like incinerator toilets, which basically it's like
Mm-hmm.
um, it just burns the waste, and there's some maintenance involved with that, but it's also less costly than having a giant septic system for like 200 people put into a property. So
Yeah.
I think just being in the space for a while, like solar energy when we can use it, incinerator off grid systems that make sense that don't sort of take away from the experience. Um, like we don't necessarily want to have an outhouse, that smells really bad or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to still have that great experience, but also like have like being a good steward of the land at sort of the front of mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when it comes to these like glamping resorts, they're out in nature. They're similar to campgrounds, but instead they have these glamping like domes. And you mentioned that members can customize their domes. So explain what you mean by a member.
Yeah, so I guess we have a couple different membership tiers. So as our NFT members, we have the Monarchias, which is our top tier, and that's like our serious kind of real estate investor. They probably want to own a dome or two in the future, and so the main utility and benefit for them is that they get to look at all the deals first and foremost. So, for example, like right now, the property that we're under contract with, the Mauna Keas right now, there's 7 domes, I think, that are committed to buy Mauna Keas right as of right now. We're actually opening that up tomorrow for people to begin investing in those structures. So, but for example, the Mauna Kea has had the first opportunity to invest in some of those domes. Then the next tier is Everest, and Everest is, I would say, the majority of our members will fall into Everest, and that is you get basically the second option after Mauna Kea is to invest in the property. But we would imagine like those members maybe won't buy a whole dome, because a whole dome could be $50,000 or more potentially, just to do a dome. They might buy a fraction of one. So the way we have this set up is there are 50 NFTs as a part of one dome. And so you could buy just like 1/50th of a dome. And by doing that, you, instead of spending like 50,000 USDC, you would spend $1,500 USDC on that fraction. But then you're also like rewarded based on the production of that dome via commissions. So you would get a monthly commission on that NFT as long as you were holding it. So that's basically how the membership works. And then the last tier that I didn't mention yet, which is K2, and that'll be more of like our camper audience. As the properties come online, I imagine more K2s will be popular because they get discounts on stays. So they'll get like a 5% discount staying at the property.
Okay, so the K2s are not owners. They are just they have access to the grounds at a discounted rate.
They can be an owner. You can own, you can own something as long as you're a member, you can own a fraction. But they're going to have basically the third option. So the theory is these are one of the better real estate investments you can make right now in these structures. And the theory is that it's probably unlikely that there'll be any inventory left for K2s. So you would want probably Everest or higher if you want to be able to invest in the real estate. So it's not that you can't, though. I guess I want to make that clear. You could, if there's inventory available and you're a K2, you can buy it. You can buy an NFT.
Okay. So you have the first tier, second tier, third tier. First tier is someone that's buying, those NFTs are for buying like an entire unit or an entire
dome. Yeah, so dome. Yeah, so they could be a dome. Right now so right now we've sold 7 of those 7 domes to that community. And I think there's going to be a few more that go as far as the whole dome is concerned. But they also have the option to invest in the fractions, just like Everest does. The real benefit to that first tier is that they get the first right. So like in the future, after we get one property up, I think there's probably, it's going to drive a lot of value to that top tier, because there's going to be a lot of demand to be able to invest in these properties in the future. Because the cash flow model on them is like it's very strong. And the return on investment's very high. And it's residual versus, we're not like burning and turning anything here. You're holding on to something of value. So,
yeah. Okay. So in terms of I want to get into the legal aspect now. It essentially sounds similar to like fractionalized real estate, or how you would typically invest in more regulated assets. So how have you guys had to navigate, not violating any sort of like SEC rules or security rules, etc., around these NFTs?
Yeah. So the main thing is that you can't actually own the asset. Like you can't own the land as an NFT. So the way it works is you structure it as a DAO LLC. And so the LLC actually owns the land, the physical assets. And then it turns around and it provides like a 99-year access to the DAO, essentially. And then that can be like renewed. But for now, like that's the way it's structured, is there's like a 99-year access to the DAO. And then the DAO basically controls the interest of that. Like it has the rights to decide if, one day the land should be liquidated or not. It goes back to the voting
Mm-hmm.
rights in the DAO. So that's how you kind of separate the assets from the actual like crypto side of it. And then the what the members are actually like, they're getting membership, so they're not getting ownership. Sometimes we confuse those words, but
Mm-hmm.
membership just means like access. So you gain access to the commissions, the revenue being generated, and so the NFT that you hold will generate commissions based on the production of the property. So to be honest with you, I think that in the future we are going to see some changes in the way that the SEC looks at things.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, like it'll become more regulated, which will be good because we can just like today, essentially like what a DAO is it's almost like a publicly traded company out of the gates. So
Mm-hmm.
rather than going through the process of paying some really expensive bankers in New York tens of millions of dollars to IPO, we're basically creating startup companies that can out of the gates. And what I think we're finding is that there is a large percentage of people that like investing and supporting these types of projects. And
Mm-hmm.
if we're a democracy that's for the people by the people, then like we need to like break down some of these barriers to make it more accessible for people to, we obviously want to protect people from bad performers, but most of the protections today aren't for that reason. They're to
Mm-hmm.
protect corporate interest or banking interest, which is I want to charge $15 million or whatever it is and bank fees for you to go public. So, anyways,
Mm-hmm.
I think the evolution of this evolves into more of, hey, like we actually can provide ownership, and this is like our intention in the future to like actually provide ownership of land to our community. But we can't do that right
Got
now
it.
because of the way things are structured. So we have to say things like it's membership and it's commissions, but hey, we have control of the property via the DAO voting mechanisms. And in the future,
Mm-hmm.
if things change and we're able to like provide that level of that level ownership, then we do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I love how you explain that, because I think a lot of folks try and act like they've try and act like there's a way around the whole ownership thing, and there really isn't. So it seems like you guys have come up with a solution that doesn't break the law, and it's still it's honest and it has integrity, and you're being very straightforward with all of your users and your members, but the model is set up in a way where there's still a lot of it still can be highly lucrative for them.
Absolutely. And the intention and the way that we have it structured is like when you own one of these NFTs, it generates commissions on that property like forever. So it really is
Mm-hmm.
like ownership, but we can't. It's as close to ownership as we can get without giving you ownership.
Yeah. It's like rent. It's a rental. It's almost like you're you're renting and or subleasing or
It's good.
something like that.
That's good
You don't
enough.
actually own it.
It would almost be like, let's say you rented out an apartment and then you turned
Hmm.
around and you Airbnb'd it, and
Yes,
you got the
exactly.
extra money over the cost of the rent. It's exactly what we're doing
Yes,
here. So.
yes, exactly. Um, so I guess my next question is, what is the reason for wanting to share, access to this revenue versus just, having a regular company that all the money goes to the company and,
Yeah.
and that's it. I mean, you probably get richer faster, I'd assume.
Yeah, I guess the motivation has never really been about, for me, hasn't been driven by the financial returns. I think there's definite opportunities on that side. But our so like as a trader, like I was pretty much full time trading from 2020 to the end of last year, and um, I was doing like 18-hour days, like staring at screens, and
Oh my God.
yeah, multiple monitors, trading view, watching dozens of assets all the time. So, anyways, like pretty much got myself into like burnout phase. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of people in crypto, if you're in it like full time, you get to that point. Like it's like a breaking point for a lot of people. And like because it's so intense. It's 24/7, 365. Like we never shut this thing down. And
Hmm.
so a big passion for me was to actually like build a retreat for people in crypto to be able to get away. And like I saw these cool things that were happening in the metaverse, but like um, it's not IRL. Like let's do something in real
Hmm.
life. Let's get out and build community and see each other face to face. And like that's how like I think real things start to happen. And then really it was like for me it was like getting my foot in the door with real like I looked at the whole real estate vertical as a basically an industry that's like ripe for disruption. So anytime I see like an industry that has significant middlemen, I just feel like there's like blockchain's perfect for that because it cuts out a lot of the fluff, I guess you could say. Like,
Hmm.
there's all kinds of like markups in real estate that probably don't need to exist if there were like blockchain solutions like in title companies and broker commissions and transaction fees and anybody that's done like DeFi before and like instant loans versus like trying to get a mortgage. You basically have to like give them your second born child or something like that. So, um,
Hmm.
but yeah, so I think like the reason to do this was, and also like life cycle of where we're at. Um, I looked at like crypto's life cycle right now. I believe we're in a similar stage as like the late 90s in the tech boom.
Hmm.
And so I think there's this like opportunity to do something that's really interesting with utility driven projects. And so
Hmm.
I saw a lot of stuff that didn't have a ton of utility, and I invested in a lot of stuff that didn't have a ton of utility. Um, but I also, I mean, I tried to really invest with utility, but it's tough. Like if there's not like there isn't anything more utility than actual real estate. Like land is land. Like
Hmm.
it's hard asset, right? You can't really change it much. So it's pretty cool to have something that's backed by that. And then my thought process is it's kind of a launch pad into maybe different things that we do in the future.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see these campgrounds being used for a lot. I mean, even festivals, events. There's so many different types of experiences that you could throw there outside of the regular kind of use, day to day use uh, of the grounds. So there's probably so many ways that you could monetize it, and I actually also wanted to mention I have a friend, a project that I'm working with called Tribal that I would love to introduce you to. They essentially help primarily Black people, but they're also branching out into other groups as well, pool their money to invest in digital assets. Under the premise that a lot of them don't really know how, or don't really know where, or they don't have enough money to invest in the more stable assets, right? That
Yeah.
cost a lot more to invest in. So they can pool their money together. So he has an app. It's a software app where you can basically pool your money via a chat group. And so they launch these different pools. They have a doodle pool, for example. They just bought a doodle for like 17,000 the other day, and they have a lot of great folks from all sorts of different
That's cool.
companies,
It's
like,
a good idea.
you know, that yeah, that pool their money together. And I actually think that this would be a cool project for them to do a pool for.
It would be cool. Yeah. Get some real estate ownership and some commissions rolling in. Like that's the cool thing about
Yeah.
this is like a lot of the stuff that we hold in crypto, we can't really make like there's this gap between like never sell because that's what everybody says like oh you bought something don't sell it hold it forever and the reality in real life which is like hey we need real money to like live so you have to sell
Mm-hmm.
something sometimes if you're in this
Mm-hmm.
industry and so what we're trying to do is help sort of bridge that gap so you can hold a digital asset forever but it actually produces income that you could live off of so
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. I love it. I'm completely sold. If I had 50 grand, I would buy one myself.
nice they're
If
pretty
I take that back. If I had 50 grand to spare,
yeah
if I had 50 grand to spare, I'm not at that level yet, but I hope to be soon.
Well, I mean, you can the fractions will go for 1,500 USDC, so those are a little bit more economical than like owning a whole dome outright. But yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I would. I'm definitely gonna check it out, and I'm gonna do an intro to Ikechi and see if we can figure out
cool.
a pool to
That'd be
support
awesome.
this.
That would be awesome.
Cool. All right. So let's see. How can people get involved? How can people find you? And what are the steps to invest?
Yeah. So let's see. Yak.camp. That's yak.camp is our site, and that basically has links to social on there but it's just like the
Okay.
Yak Dao on Twitter, Yak Dao on Discord. Those are like our two most active communities. Discord is kind of where most it's just like members. So if you, I won't say it's like totally members only, but it's pretty close to just members only because we did have a bunch of people come in before we did the NFT
Okay.
sale. But like that's where a lot of voting and stuff is happening. So like property reviews and stuff like that is in Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are the three things or three areas: site, um, Twitter, Discord, and then I think as far as like getting involved or becoming a member, you can mint through like pretty much any of the NFT exchanges right now. I think we're listed on like LooksRare and OpenSea and a few
Mm-hmm.
few of the different exchanges. We just listed maybe like a week or two ago, and then but those are like just the memberships. So what's going to happen like tomorrow is we're going to release our pre-sale for the Brevard property. That's going to go public, and so if you wanted to like actually own some or own a membership to the real estate, then that'll be released like on Twitter and on Discord. You would see those links, and then we have basically a form, like a Google form that you would go through if you're interested in taking part of or learning more information about that. And we'll have probably like an AMA on that within the week, and we'll probably have like we field questions kind of on a one-on-one basis too. So if you've got questions or anything like that, there's team members and myself that are happy to engage with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I love the website. I love the art. It's very cute.
Yeah, so that's
Um,
what we actually did is we did commission a really good artist to like make a actual art driven NFT collection on top of like the utility that it
mhm.
offers.
Yeah, it's reminding me of something, but I can't remember what it is. Um, it's slipping my mind. But this is really cool, and I also see I see you have you posted something about a property under contract in Roseman, North Carolina. Is that the first property?
Yeah, so the city is like, so Rossman is the address. The city is Brevard, which is like
Mm-hmm.
closest to, we're about 20 miles away from Asheville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool, like in the Smoky Mountains. So if you're in Atlanta, it's about a 3 hour drive from Atlanta to Brevard or to the property
Mm-hmm.
itself. But yeah, it's 22 acres. It has a private pond. It's built on the side of a mountain. So there'll be like domes up on the side of the mountain with like decks and like swinging bridges from each dome. So it's going to be really cool. And we just actually partnered with one of the biggest development companies in the RV and camping space. So they are going to be building out this property for us once we've basically sold all the inventory, which is what we're opening up tomorrow.
Nice. Cool. I just tweeted about y'all,
Nice.
and yeah, I'm excited to stay tuned. I've followed, and I will be, following along with the project.
Awesome. Thanks, Iris. Well, I'd love to connect with, what was the name of the group that you said earlier? The
It's called Tribal. The platform's
Tribal.
called Tribal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd love to
Yeah.
connect with that. And we'll stay in touch on like Web3 stuff as well. It sounds like you're pretty active in the space. So
Yes, we are. We do lots of events. We're working on our first online course as well. It's been highly requested.
nice.
So, and it makes sense because events are just It's just a moment in time. So, lots of folks want to have a place that they can go to do additional studying and learning. So we're working on that, and we've got lots of exciting partnerships in the works as well. So
Awesome.
yeah, if I can add you to our email list, that would be great. You can see all the
Sure. Yeah.
updates.
Feel free to do that.
Cool. Well, it was great to meet you, David. I look forward to sharing this episode with our community. And thanks again for the great work that you're doing. Congratulations on your successful NFT drop, and wishing you the best with this project.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Iris. Appreciate it.
All right. I will see y'all next time.